Hello friends, Miss Natalie here. Today I'm going to show you how I paint the foreground of my Impressionist painting. I am using the bright green, the Viridian, the yellow ochre, and the raw umber, and I am getting my palette ready, putting all of those paints on my palette. I am going to start, I think, with my larger flat brush and start laying in some green for the background. I'm using the side like I did with those trees. And I'm just kind of laying in some greenery of the flowers, kind of a background for the flowers that are at the bottom of my image. They are in the foreground. Generally, objects that are in the foreground have more detail than ones in the background. Although since this is an Impressionist painting, I'm not going to be putting a whole lot of detail in, but maybe a little bit more detail. You'll be able to see the flowers. For example, there may be flowers on the other side of the lake, but you can't see them. You can maybe see hints of them in the fact that there's like a little yellow over there. So maybe there's a hint of those yellow flowers on the other side of the lake, but you won't be able to see them individually. Whereas after I get all this greenery put down, you will be able to see the individual flowers. So right now I'm mostly working with bright green, but I have a little Viridian on my brush at the same time. And again, like all the other parts of this painting, the background and the middle ground, I am loading up my brush with more than one color at a time. I might even be grabbing a little bit of that yellow ochre just to give a hint of the yellow that is going to be definitely standing out with the flowers. And it's this point in the painting where I start to get a little loosey-goosey. My brush strokes are very loose, very wild, and I'm leaving a lot of white to be seen. Partly because I'm kind of tired of working. I'll just be honest with you. I'm a little bit tired of working on this piece, but also I've been working for a while and I'm just kind of getting into the groove in some ways as well. So, I've got the different concentrations of paint in different places. I've made it kind of watery in a few places, and I've made it very impasto in other places, just so that you get the sense of these leaves, of these flowers. And now actually I'm going to be moving into the shrub that's at the far right of the painting. And I have painted over some parts of it, but I'm going to try to remember where those go and take some dark greens. And I am using, I'm not doing that with my brush. That's not great. I'm just tapping it. If you see the bristles of your brush splayed out, you're being too hard. You really just want to tap it gently. You don't want to punish your brush. You don't want to punish the paper. The brush and the paint and the paper are all friends, so they should play nicely together, and nobody's hitting or slapping anybody. So I'm just tapping those colors in for that shrub that's over there. And I'm kind of making it up a little bit. I know in the painting the shrub goes much higher, but I kind of like having the foothills and the trees on the other side of the lake showing a little bit more. So I may not get quite so high with the shrub than is in real life. Again, Impressionists did try to paint what they actually saw. So if I was a true Impressionist, I would try to make that shrub as big as possible. But I'm letting a little bit of that post-Impressionist style sink in so that I'm painting a little bit of what I want it to look like, not just what it actually looks like. And I'm making some parts of the shrub darker and some parts lighter. And I am going back for more color. And now I'm going to go in with those yellow flowers. There's yellow flowers and white flowers, both. So I've got the yellow and I've got the white, and I'm going to use a lot of it. And I'm just going to use my rounded tip brush and just kind of dab where I think those flowers should be. They kind of are, I don't know how to describe it. They remind me of the kind of flowers that kind of are stacked like, oh, well, shoot. You might know them when you see them. They're a little bit lacy. And then we have these those white flowers that are more like daisies. And so I'm using more of a horizontal tap of the brush to show those, where I'm doing more of a vertical tap for the yellow flowers. And I'm putting a little white in my yellow, and I'm recognizing that that green is not dry, so some of the green is going to be in the yellow as well. And just tapping here and there to try to get the sense of these pretty lacy almost flowers, and maybe going a little bit off page, trying to keep it similar to the way it looks in the reference image, but going a little bit extra with the flowers because I just want to celebrate them. Celebrating those beautiful yellow flowers and the pretty white ones as well. And just putting a few extra here and there, maybe a few more than are really there in the picture. And again, not having a lot of details to the flowers, but the fact that you can even see flowers is the detail. And like just having a little yellow and white on those white flowers so that you kind of get the sense that there's like a white center to them. And once I'm really happy with all the flowers, I make a terrible mistake of trying to paint in the grasses that are showing, and I just don't have a thin enough brush to make it work well. So I would recommend that you don't do this part where I tried to paint in the grasses. Just ignore the grass unless you have a paintbrush that has like 4 or 5 bristles on it. Sorry, forgot the word bristles for a second. Then you could do it because you really want a super fine line if you're going to paint those grasses. But I'm like, this is not good. So I come back over and try to at least put some flowers over the bottom of the grass so it's not quite so thick. But yeah, don't do what I did, kids. Learn from my mistake. Learn from my failure. Well, it's not a failure. It's just a mistake. Learn and make a change. So once I'm happy with the flowers, then I'm going to come in with a little bit more of that bright green and maybe a little yellow ochre and try to add some highlights to kind of show the different leaves on the shrub. And I start by doing these horizontal lines back and forth. And then I rethink that and I instead try to do the center lines, which is not great either. And then I just decide to come back and kind of blend with dabs and make it more dabbed. And part of me thinks I should have just dabbed at it to begin with and not tried to deal with the center lines and just maybe added some dabs for some highlights, perhaps. And so that's what I'm doing now, just trying to take some of that bright green and adding some highlights to make it look like some parts are in front of other parts and there's maybe more leaves there than you would have seen before. And that's pretty much it. That's where I end. I've got my foreground, I've got my middle ground, I've got my background. So now you've seen it all. Go add a foreground to your painting.